Hello Euro football daily lovers and welcome back to another top 10, where today we'll be looking at 10 teams that should have won more silverware. 10. Leeds. It may be difficult for some people to remember after their troubles of the last few years, which included relegations, failed promotion pushes, crazy owners and a revolving door of managers, but Leeds United used to be very good. Leeds used to be in the upper echelons of English football leagues since the late 1990s, finishing third behind United and Arsenal in the 1999-2000 season. They reached the semi-finals of the UEFA Cup in 2000 before losing to Galatasaray. The next season, with their side consisting of the likes of Rio Ferdinand, Danny Mills, Harry Kewell, Mark Vidoka and Alan Smith, they beat AC Milan and Lazio on the way to the semi-finals of the Champions League. They had held Valencia to a 0-0 at Ellen Road before unravelling in the Mestalla and losing 3-0. This was their peak and then came their fall. Chairman Peter Ridsdale borrowed £60 million which they couldn't pay back, Leeds' finances, and ultimately the team collapsed. Only this season do Leeds finally look like getting back to the top table, as they remain unbeaten in the Championship after 8 games. 9. Napoli. It's been 26 years since Diego Maradona last took to the Stadio San Paoli pitch, and his departure sparked a downward spiral from which the Little Donkeys have only recently recovered. Crippled by financial difficulties, important players leaving, results floundered and Napoli found themselves in Serie C as recently as 2005. 2006 saw promotion back into the top tier of Italian football, but it was not until 3 years later under Walter Mazzarri that things started to improve. Under the Italian, the Naples outfit finished 3rd, 5th and 2nd in the Serie A and managed to get to the last 16 of the Champions League in 2012, only to be knocked out by eventual champions Chelsea 5-4 in aggregate. Since then, they've gone from strength to strength, finishing 3rd, 5th, 2nd and 3rd in the league. Last year, they scored their record amount of goals, secured a record amount of points and finished just 5 points behind champions Juventus. This season, with the squad containing the likes of Dries Mertens, Marek Hamsik, Lorenzo Insigne and Jose Calderon, Napoli are flying with the most goals, shots per game and the highest passing accuracy in Serie A. At the time of writing, they are just 1 point off Inter Milan with a 100% win record and a game in hand. Could this be their year to finally dislodge Juventus? 8. Bayer Leverkusen. Bayer Leverkusen have never won the Bundesliga, but did come unbelievably close to winning a treble in 2002, but instead managed a feat only achieved once before by Barcelona in 1986 and once since by Bayern Munich in 2012. Leverkusen finished runners-up in the Champions League, the Bundesliga and the German Cup. Obviously, Barcelona haven't done too badly since, winning 49 trophies since 1986, including 5 Champions Leagues. As for Bayern, well, they won the treble the following year, but for Leverkusen, that may well have been their only chance of making history. Despite scoring 12 more goals than anyone in the league, and with a team containing the talents of Ballack, Berbatov, Juan, Lucio and Zé Roberto, they finished 1 point behind Dortmund. 2 losses in their last 3 games at home to Wolfsburg and to lowly Nuremberg cost Leverkusen the title. On the 11th of May, only a week later, they took on Schalke in the Olympiastadion in the German Cup and were outplayed in a comprehensive 4-2 defeat. 4 days later, they played Real Madrid in the Champions League final. Los Blancos were equally determined to win after limping to a 3rd place finish in La Liga in their 100th anniversary year. They lost thanks to that famous left-footed volley by Zinedine Zidane. Their run prompted Michael Ballack, German Player of the Year that season, to say, "The football god is not from Leverkusen." No, Michael, it appears not. 7. Hungary. After being thrashed 5-2 away to Czechoslovakia in April 1949, recently appointed coach Gustav Sebes did away with the established stars and put his trust in youth. So began the period of the magical Magyars, where they suffered a solitary loss in 50 games between June 1950 and February 1956. This happened to be the World Cup final of 1954 against West Germany. Between that loss to Czechoslovakia and July 1957, Hungary scored in a world record 73 consecutive games. In 1953, they were the first side from outside the British Isles to beat England on home soil, triumphing 6-3 in a game dubbed the match of the century. Sebes pioneered a radical formation that featured a withdrawn centre forward and wingers who would slot into midfield. Their tactical flexibility in their 2-3-3-2 formation is often seen as the prototype of total football, which was developed by the Dutch in the 1970s. Playing prior to the birth of the European Championships in 1960, this magnificent Hungary side featuring the likes of Joseph Bosnik, Sandor Kocsis and captain Ferenc Puskás, scorer of 84 goals in 85 internationals, never won an international trophy. A great shame for a side that would later be broken up by the 1958 Hungarian Revolution. 6. Liverpool. Rafa Benitez's tenure at Liverpool lasted from 2004 to 2010, and in that time Liverpool won a Champions League, FA Cup and reached another Champions League final, while steadily improving their performances in the league. There was a feeling that Liverpool's squad in the 2008-9 season, containing the likes of Pepe Reina, Jamie Carragher, Xabi Alonso, Javier Mascherano, Steven Gerrard and Fernando Torres, was the best equipped to bring the league title back to the Merseyside for the first time since 1990. Despite scoring a league-high 77 goals, having the third best defence and only losing 2 games all season, they were pipped to the title by Manchester United by only 3 points. A late run of only 5 wins in their last 6 games couldn't erase the damage of a spell of 8 draws in 13 games between the late November and January period. They relied on being tough to beat, explosive on the counter-attack and the goals of Gerrard and Torres, who finished with 16 and 14 respectively. They even memorably beat United 4-1 at Old Trafford. It was arguably Liverpool's best chance to win a title this century, and within 2 years the opportunity had gone as Benitez, Alonso, Mascherano and Torres had all left the club. 5. Atletico Madrid. Since Diego Simeone took the helm at Atletico Madrid in 2011, they have won La Liga, the Europa League, Copa del Rey, the Spanish Super Cup and the UEFA Super Cup, but they have also been incredibly unlucky. Their rise has coincided with 2 of the greatest teams in European football history. Barcelona won 3 Champions Leagues between 2009 and 2015, and Real Madrid have won 3 since 2014, 2 of which were against arch-rivals Atletico. For Simeone's Los Rojiblancos to win the Liga in 2014 against the renowned superstars and financial clout of Barcelona and Real Madrid with a relatively small squad and a wage bill comparable to Fulham's was therefore a remarkable achievement. Include the fact that since 2013-14 they've also had to deal with the loss of players such as Falcao, Costa, Mandzukic, Turin and Alderweireld, and it makes their achievement look even more extraordinary. Simeone's side is based around incredible work ethic and resolute defence, a defence that since he has taken over has conceded the least goals in the Liga 4 times in 6 attempts. The chances of further glory this season have been hampered by a transfer ban that was imposed in July 2016 for breaching FIFA rules over the signing of minors and their move to their new 67,000-seater stadium, the Wanda Metropolitano. 4. The Netherlands. When any discussion of the best teams of all time come up, the same names always crop up. The Brazil 1970 side, Milan in the late 1980s and Barcelona of 2010, but one team consistently gets brought up for the best team never to win the World Cup, the Dutch side of 1974. In 1974, the Netherlands may not have qualified for the World Cup since 1938, but their domestic sides were sweeping all before them. After Feyenoord won the European Cup in 1970, Ajax then won 3 on the bounce between 1971 and 73. Under revolutionary football thinker Rinus Michels, who was also managing Barcelona at the time, the Netherlands players were free to move with freedom throughout all areas of the pitch. Total football created by the Hungarians was finally working on the world stage. They played sumptuous football led by the enigmatic Johan Cruyff, who finished the tournament with 3 goals and dismantled Argentina 4-0 and Brazil 2-0 on their way to the final. In the final, they faced their old adversary West Germany, and despite taking the lead in the first minute without De Mannschaft touching the ball, overconfidence undid them and they eventually succumbed to a 2-1 defeat. 3. Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Dortmund have won 2 Bundesligas and 2 German Cups in their last decade, and for a team that has won the hearts of neutrals around the world with their blistering counter-attacking style, high pressing and relentless energy, this is simply not enough. They have been runner-up in the Bundesliga 3 times in the last 4 years and lost the 2013 Champions League final to Bayern Munich. During that period, they have had to put up with a raft of talent leaving, including Dembele, Bender, Mkhitaryan, Hummels, Gundogan, Blaszczykowski, Immobile, Lewandowski and Goetze. To maintain consistency at the top of the league despite those departures, not to mention losing talented managers Jurgen Klopp and Thomas Tuchel, shows what they have been up against. Domestically, they have had to take on Bayern Munich and their far superior financial muscle. Last season, Bayern were 18 points clear of Dortmund. They had more possession, more shots per game and a higher pass accuracy too. Having lost tantalising prospect Ousmane Dembele to Barcelona for 150 million euros, fans of BVB will be hoping that they can keep the European big dogs away from the likes of Aubameyang, Pulisic and Royce. 2. Juventus. Domestically, the old lady have swept all before them. Their 6 Scudettos in a row have been built on a watertight defence. In that period, they have consistently conceded the least goals, and in the last 5 years, they have never finished with less than 87 points. In 2013-2014, Antonio Conte's last season with the IBM Canary, they finished with a league record 102 points. Despite this unrivaled domestic success, Juve's last Champions League win was in 1996, and they have lost 5 finals since. This includes 2 in the last 3 years, although they did play against Barcelona in 2015 and Real Madrid last May. How could Juventus finally get over the line, you may be asking? Well, last season they only conceded 7 goals in the Champions League, which compares favourably to Real's 18, Bayern's 14 and Barcelona's 12. However, they only averaged 1.7 goals a game, compared to Real Madrid's 2.8, and their attempts on target ranked 4th, showing that the old lady may need to become more offensive if they are to finally win the continent's premier competition again. This season, despite their 100% record in Serie A, Juve's opening Champions League game was a disaster. They came up against a messy masterclass at the Nou Camp and lost 3-0. Does this suggest that Juventus are again not quite up to the requisite level and will once again be the nearly men of European football? 1. Brazil. The bare facts around Brazil's 1982 World Cup campaign are actually fairly unremarkable. They were knocked out in the second round by Italy and finished 5th for the second time in their history. But the Seleção in 1982 were far more than just results. They were about irresistible attacking football, often to their own detriment. With the offensive firepower of Zico, Socrates, Falcao and Eder, the Brazilians romped to victory in Group 6. Defeating an unexpectedly strong Soviet Union 2-1, Scotland 4-1 and New Zealand 4-0. Back in 1982, teams would then progress into a second group stage. Brazil were drawn alongside an Argentinian side including Diego Maradona, who they then beat 3-1, and Italy. The game against the Azzurri is now part of World Cup folklore. Twice Italy led through Paolo Rossi, and twice Brazil came back. The Seleção were due to go through on goal difference when a poor defensive clearance from a corner allowed Paolo Rossi to seal his hat-trick and the win. Brazil were out. Italy would go on to triumph over West Germany in the final 3-1 and win their 3rd World Cup. To get that far and fail and yet still be remembered as one of the greatest teams of all time shows the depth of feeling that the men in those iconic yellow shirts and blue shorts conjured up that summer in Spain. They played 5 games, scored 15 goals and won the hearts of millions. So that was our top 10 teams that deserved more glory, but what did you guys think? Did you have any more suggestions? Let us know in the comments below. But if you've enjoyed that, why not check out Stat Wars The Champions? It is back, hallelujah. And as always guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.